So this is a book that I've called the Ukraine sketchbook. It's really the Sydney Ducks set within things to do with the war. You'll find different maps or grenades or references to Russian politicians, or I think there's a picture of Joe Biden later on. The way the work is composed is by taking fragments from elsewhere and recombining them into a new whole. And that process of breaking things apart and recombinants is absolutely familiar to the scientist. It's used in a different way. You know, mine is not an analytic process exclusively. It's a process of invention. It's a process of fictioning things. There's Biden. Maybe he looks a bit like a Chicago Imagist painting. I think the other thing that's at stake here that's maybe misunderstood is the humour. And the levity in the work is not meant superficially. It's meant as a generous act to engage you. There's nothing light-hearted about any of this work. I mean, I'm deadly serious about it. I think that was the work was misunderstood early on, or maybe artists were misunderstood early on. It's a research. It's a deeply involved project. It's just not for the same ends as the science. These are a series of characters with Russian onion domes as wigs or headdresses or hats. And this caption says, "Fish meets cheeks to discuss an alliance." So there's lots to do with politicking. And I think that the imagery is very, very compressed and takes a while to fathom. You have to look into these things and read them spatially, and that's where the shadows help separate things out into layers, into almost like flats on a stage set, something like that. And I am thinking the work into existence. So another thing to bear in mind is which part of the work is top-down design and which part of the work is bottom-up design. You assume as the viewer that I had this in mind when I started it. Absolutely not. I have some hunches about where I want to go, and then I have some tools to get me going in a direction, but really I'm inventing as I go, and the work is evolving and I am steering it. It's a kind of steering of evolution, and I think that's what's misunderstood about the creative process as well. This is a favourite one. This is going to become a big painting. Mary tries to prevent Stig from making an obvious mistake.
What makes them your favourites?
Certain of them work better than others. There's a certain balance of space, or there's a certain energy. There's something very satisfying about these shapes, these two. There's a balance in the composition there's something that makes me want to think about it again. When I make it as a big painting, it'll be very different. In this instance, I've had to start from scratch and it's taken a long time to invent. Now I've invented it, the painting becomes a process of meditation in which I am transcribing something. And that links back to this process of images being passed through time, and that the artist is the inheritor of a tradition of images, a transmitter of images. The question is, how do you add mutations to the image, like mutations to the virus, to keep it active? So, Vasilis, who's this character that lives in a kind of coffin, not only is he drawn from another artist's sculpture, but also there's some sort of medieval reference to, I don't know, certain types of religious painting. Or I keep thinking about Giotto. There's lots of perspectives and shadows and lighting sources that are contradictory, and I'm embracing those contradictions, and somehow those things resolve to be happier.